Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark, a.k.a. Derringer. Today is Sunday, February 10th, and you're listening to episode 195 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside news and information. As always, I'm brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So I'm going to take a minute and talk about that Support the Show tab again, because in a couple months I am going to have to pay those hosting costs. So again, get out there, use my Amazon link. That's the easiest, best way for you guys if you want to make a donation towards the show, because it costs you absolutely nothing. You just use my link, buy whatever you're going to buy, which you're going to buy anyways on Amazon. Let's be honest, everybody's going to buy stuff on Amazon. And then Amazon sends me a small portion based on whatever you purchased. Again, it costs nothing out of pocket for you to do it, and it's a great way to help support the show. Other than that, what's been going on with me this past week? Well, you know, obviously funeral stuff is all said and done, and so now it's back to pretty much life as usual. So played as much Planetside 2 as I could this past week. It's certainly quieter at home now, so I definitely have more time to get in and play games like Planetside 2. Plus, I've been playing a little bit of Apex Legends, I'm not going to lie. Checked out that because it's brand new and out there. And at the same time, I've been playing the Planetside Arena betas as they've been coming out, a couple games here and there. Honestly, though, Planetside Arena, I'm much more waiting for the big 250v250 sessions that I'm hoping are right around the corner. I mean, when we look at it right now, today's the 10th, and they're supposed to be releasing the Founders season on the 20th, so it's only 10 days away, and we haven't done any testing yet on that 250v250 mode, which is where I think I'm going to be playing the majority of my Planetside Arena games. So I'm hoping we see that sometime this week, maybe sometime next week. I really don't know, but I'm looking forward to that. I'll certainly play some more Planetside Arena as we get to it. And I'm going to talk about Apex Legends a little more at the fourth topic in this week's show. But with that segue, let's talk about what's actually in store for this week's show. Well, first, I've got 2 PTS updates that were dropped on us last week. It's mostly NS Operatives and Mac stuff, so I apologize in advance to non-members and Max haters, but we're going to talk about it anyways. After that, I want to talk about a recent post that covers some things in Planetside Arena that we'd like to see come to Planetside 2. And then after that, I want to take a moment and talk about that new hotness, Apex Legends, like I said, and stuff that I'd like to see taken from Apex Legends and incorporated into Planetside Arena, if anything. And after that, I've got a few listener emails that I want to cover, so strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, like I said, first up is the first of 2 PTS updates. The first one dropped on us on February 5th. And again, if you're a new listener or whatever, PTS is the public test server, and it's only available for PC players, and it's only available for Planetside 2. No Planetside Arena test server. I guess the whole thing's kind of a test server right now. But PTS, let's talk about the February 5th update. So the first thing under known issues, and as I read through some of this stuff, note that there was a second PTS update that dropped on the 8th that might correct some of these things, but I'm just going to go through it chronologically so that I catch everything. So first is that NS Operative characters aren't currently being sorted into teams properly, resulting in broken elements, but they are aware of that and they are working to repair that. And that's one of the things that they fixed on the 8th. But like I said, we're just going to go through this chronologically and not leave anything out. So next up on the February 5th PTS update was the Wraith Cloak Flash change. The cooldown went from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and the initial energy cost from 25 down to 10. Now, there's a note on this one that these changes made their way to PTS late last year, but they were never posted. They've also repaired an issue where energy wouldn't drain that was broken during a fuel bar UI fix around the same period. Now, just working on this topic a little bit deeper, the reason this one's being talked about so much right now is because Rel came out and admitted that he was wrong. And I know this is one of the few times that's ever happened, so we're going to cherish it. Some people are going to cherish it more than others. No, I'm not going to lie. So the reason that Rel had to apologize in this one is because he told people that this change went to live, when in fact it did not quite go to live. And it has been sitting on the PTS for quite a while now. And that's why this is actually being reported a second time, I guess. So right now, these changes I just said, they're going to go live in the next full game update. We don't know when that will actually be, but that will be something that goes live right automatically and isn't going to stay in a testing mode like some of these other things. Next, they made some changes to the end of continent precision strike. So this is, when someone captures the continent itself and locks the continent, and you've got those Bastion fleet carriers overhead, and they're dropping explosions down onto the ground. So they've taken the damage over time area of effect and reduced it from 300 meters down to 50 meters. They've taken the detonation area of effect outer radius, dropped it from 150 meters to 100 meters. And the only reason to do this is so that it allows people to redeploy from the zone more easily than they were able to. Granted, if you still stand out there, you're going to get killed ultimately. So when you lock a continent, you should really be trying to get the heck off of it. Next, moving back to the NC Maxes. So based on the changes that I discussed on last week's show, and comments from the community itself regarding the changes that were put on the PTS, the devs decided to increase the ammo capacities on basically every NC Max shotgun. And they also removed slugs 100% from the PTS. So you should no longer be able to equip slugs on any of the NC Maxes. But the ammo capacities, all of them got increased to 72. The scatter cannon went from 54 to 72, the hacksaw 48 to 72, the grinder from 60 to 72, and the matic from 54 to 72. In addition, the previous notes indicated an incorrect damage and fall off for the matics. They've been changed on the PTS, and they've edited the previous patch notes to reflect it as well. The correct damage and fall off values are 100 at 15 meters and 75 at 50 meters. The good news is that if you listened to last week's show, I had given you the correct figures when I had read it, because I had caught all the information at a later date. Moving on from the NC Maxes, though, there's some news about the Terran Republic Max. Someone on Reddit made a suggestion and said, hey, when the TR Max is in lockdown mode, why doesn't this allow them not to be thrown around by a knockback-based attack like an orbital strike or a tank mine? And I know Rel said that he thought that was a good idea and said they'd implement it. So right now on the PTS, TR Maxes who are in lockdown are able to lock them. When they put themselves locked down, they won't be affected by the knockback of an orbital strike or a tank mine. I know there was also a request to do this for the Prowler as well, but I don't know that the Prowler can actually survive an orbital strike hit. So I don't know that it's as valid for a Prowler as it is for a Max. So maybe this is another reason for TR players to choose Lockdown again. I know most of you are not using Lockdown. this could be one instance where it might actually come in handy now. And then finally, finishing up this PTS update, there were some other miscellaneous changes, fixes, and additions. I'm not going to read through all of them. Some of the bigger ones that are in here, though, is that the NS Operative, Proxy Mines, Tank Mines, C4, Mine Carrier, and Demo Pouch should now all provide the correct number of consumables. They weren't providing that for NS Operative players. NS Operative characters will no longer have to go through the basic training directive, which is pretty nice. They added 3 new loading screens and removed a loading screen from the rotation. So if you guys remember a while back, they did the 6th anniversary loading screen and they chose some contest winners. You've got the reflection loading screen, and that was the one where you've just got the player's helmet and you can actually see in the visor some stuff going on behind it. It's a pretty cool shot. Then you've got the TR Scout Mission one, which just shows a couple TR players with a base in the background, and they're all, they're all lit up and stuff. That's a nice one too. And finally, the third one, the Waiting for Orders one, which is my least favorite. I'm not gonna lie. It was made by someone named Isonami, and I don't want to shit on Isonami, but I don't really like the the picture. I mean, it's got one NC player playing a guitar sitting on a harasser. You'll know it if you see it. It's just not my favorite. I would have much rather seen some of the other ones, some of the runners-up, like the Indar Battlegrounds one, which looks pretty good, or even the Victors one that is out there as a runner-up. Again, I just like them better than that one, even though, I mean, what it won for was social setting, so I guess it kind of fits the social setting itself, so I shouldn't complain too much. But those 3 are going to be added to the rotation shortly. And then, like I said, there was one removal. Everybody was complaining that the Holiday Max Crash loading screen is still in game, and it is still in game, but it's been removed out on the PTS. So the next time they push some of these changes to live, that screen will disappear from the rotation. And that's the February 5th PTS update. And let's move on to the February 8th PTS update. And like I said, the first thing on the 8th update is that the NSO systems are working again on the PTS. Also, alerts should be firing off again, including the new Refine and Refuel event. If you guys remember, the Refine and Refuel is the one I talked about last week, that you need to drive an ant and then go pick up cordium and then deliver cordium to some hives that have landed on the continent itself. I'm excited for this one to come to live because I'd like to see some nice rolling ant battles over some of the cordium deposits. It would be pretty cool. And I know that they were going to be running official playtests at later dates once they're closer to the DirectX 11 integration reaching its final functional state on the PTS. I know there was talk about a player get together and stuff on the PTS on the 8th. I didn't attend that. But again, if the devs push some specifically saying, let's get people on the PTS on a specific day and arrange some sort of reward for doing it, I'll certainly be over there. Now, some other NS Operatives changes into the game. They added placeholder models for the NS Operative Directive reward weapons, which is nice because I didn't realize that they were going to be adding directive reward weapons for the NS Operatives themselves. So that's kind of a cool little addition. And so what are these placeholders? Because I know everybody's curious. So the first one is the NSX-A Kappa. Yeah, you heard that right, Kappa. It's the little descriptor says a precursor to the Tengu SMG. The NSX Kappa spits out 3 heavy pellets per shot and was the first SMG to integrate a smart choke system that tightens pellet spread while aiming down sights. So what are the difference between the Tengu and the Kappa itself? Well, the Kappa has a bit of a faster firing rate. It's going at 800 meters per second, whereas the Tengu only goes at 500, so faster. Its damage also has no fall off, so it's going 50 at 8 meters and then 50 at 40 meters. whereas the Tengu is 50 at 6 meters and then 36 at 40. So it's definitely doing more damage out to further. But the big difference is, like I said, this is shooting 3, whereas the Tengu is shooting 4. Other than that, the reload speeds are the same. The Kappa has more ammo per round and also total. It has 25 and 200 total in the magazine, whereas, for example, the Tengu has 20 and 140. So that's a little bit different. The hip and aim accuracies look to be the same and everything else. So a little bit different than the Tengu itself. The next one is the NX-A Muramasa. And this is your rocket launcher, and it says scrapped prior to release in favor of the Masamune's wire guidance system and contextual firing modes. The NSX Masamura can fire up to 4 accurate high-damage rockets, either from the hip or while aiming down the optics. And really looking at the two side by side, the only difference between them clearly is that the Masamune has the wire guidance and the Muramasa does not. Everything else appears to be the exact same across both of these rocket launchers. So there's that one. Next up is the assault rifle. That's the NX-A Kuwa. And it says, unlike its Yumi predecessor, the NSX Kuwa will, after a short windup, release a torrent of accurate high-caliber rounds downrange until the trigger is released. This weapon is a hybrid rifle available to engineer, combat medic, and heavy assault classes. When we compare the Kuwa and the Yumi, the only differences are the Kuwa has a fire rate of 750 RPM, whereas the Yumi, its burst is 1,000, and its overall is 545. Other than that, the muzzle velocities are a little different. Muzzle velocity in the Kuwa is 500 meters per second, whereas the Yumi is 580. So other than that, those are really the only two differences between those two. And the last one is the NSX-A Yawara. And if I'm saying these wrong, I'm sorry. And this one says, during focus group testing, the compact automatic NSX Yawara pistol was overlooked at nearly every turn, failing to reach the popularity of the numerous other nanite systems pistol designs released throughout the Iraqian War. And clearly this is supposed to be the different than the pilot. And we put the two side by side. I mean, the pilot seems to be the better weapon. I mean, the only differences are the Yawara has a fire rate of 333 RPM, whereas the pilot has 750 RPM in its burst, so 441 average. And the muzzle velocity on the pilot is at 350, whereas the muzzle velocity on the Yawara is 300. So I think the Yawara right now is truly, like they said, just a real placeholder, and I would expect some other changes to come to it before it actually makes its way to live. And again, they did say these are placeholder models. Also, there were other directive stuff added here. So they added Iraqium directive armor for the NS Operatives. They added a leadership directive helmet placeholder for the NS Operatives. And then a bug fix was that specific explosives should now count towards the explosive directives for the NS Operatives as well. So again, take those comments and those, looking at the weapons side by side with a grain of salt. They're really placeholders. I don't think that they're the true final thing that's coming to the game. They don't seem too different in the long run, but I guess we'll have to see when they're finished and finalized within the game itself. So wrapping up the February 8th PTS update, there were some other miscellaneous fixes, changes, and additions. They did say that they've revamped the spawn rules on the PTS. It's still a work in progress. They don't go into too much detail on what they've changed. Elysium spawn tubes now show the owner's name in the redeploy screen window. Don't know if it was needed, but fine. And then they've changed it so the Ecto Blaster now counts toward generic sidearm directives, which is not too bad since a lot of people unlock the Ecto Blaster across a lot of different characters. So that is it for the 2 PTS updates. Let's move on to our third topic this week, and it's little Planetside Arena news. Now, I know I said it was news, and I guess not really news. It's more an opinion piece or anything else. Because Arai on Reddit put together a post on, he said some things I think in Planetside Arena could make it to Planetside 2. And I liked his post. And it put a lot of interesting things and things to think about based on what's available in Planetside Arena and what's available in Planetside 2. Because obviously, now that we're playing Planetside Arena, more people are into the beta and things like that. We're able to talk about the things that are in Planetside Arena. We're not able to show video, take screenshots, things like that, but we are allowed, again, to talk about the game. So Arai took the opportunity to do just that, and he put together some things that might be interesting or neat to see in Planetside 2, and I think I'd go through those right now. And the first one was the third seat for the Harasser. If you've played Planetside Arena, you know that the third person in a Harasser actually is standing in the back of the Harasser, and it has a 360-degree view. So unlike the Planetside 2 Harasser, where you just have the field of view, which is the rear of the Harasser itself, you don't have that restriction in Planetside Arena. And it might be interesting to bring that to Planetside 2, because clearly they were able to get it done. So why not bring something like that to Planetside 2? It could bring some more interesting interactions for the three people to do in the vehicle. Currently backwards restricted and crouched really limits what we can do in Planetside 2. So I wouldn't be opposed to bringing this new view or version of the Harasser to Planetside 2. I think Harasser drivers would welcome it as well. Next, he suggested construction-independent orbital strikes, because right now, obviously, on the PlayStation 4, you guys don't have orbital strikes. We don't know when or if you'll ever have orbital strikes, but in Arena, there are orbital strike grenades. And although they could really be broken in Planetside 2, it could give us the ability to call in orbital strikes by other means, and again, especially on the PlayStation 4. Now, granted, like Arai says, these things would be horribly broken. How would you even get them to somebody in the game itself? I really don't know. And that's something the developers would have to play around with, because you couldn't just give it as a loadout option, because then everybody would have orbital strike grenades, and you'd get one of these every single time you respawn, and that would be absolutely crazy. And currently there's no way in Planetside 2 to get loot or anything while you're in the game itself. They'd have to bring something like that in, but the fact of having something like an orbital strike grenade would bring orbital strikes to folks on the PS4 specifically. Arai suggests that maybe it could be in the form of an ant ability. It would require a full load of cordium to trigger. There could possibly be negative trade-offs added to it. Could turn the ant into a bomb truck or something like that. Something to be used for PS4 players to incorporate it there. Next, he talks about supply drops. If you've never played a arena game before, supply drops just randomly appear out on the field, and they usually have some really cool stuff in them. In Planetside Arena, galaxies are the ones doing the dropping, so they fly over the map and then drop crates randomly. Arai says that this actually could be an interesting thing for squad leaders or platoon leaders specifically, to be able to deploy these as a special ability with a really long cooldown. You could actually tie something like this into outfit specialization, like if they did the ASP for outfits, which I think would be great and something they should be working on if they aren't already, that you could tie supply drops to galaxies like that. I mean, he suggests things like a repair bay or tower, a small fortified emplacement, a mobile terminal, a spawn terminal, things like that, that could be used via supply drops in Planetside 2. And I think that that's not a bad idea at all. Next, he moves on to the new grenades. And there's two new grenade types, or three if you count the orbital strike, but two real new grenade types in Planetside Arena. One of them is a void grenade, and the other is a radiation grenade. I'm not sure that I think the radiation grenade should be brought into Planetside 2, because obviously you throw the grenade and it affects an area that if anybody running through it is going to take damage. That would really negate any sort of point holding. I mean, it would affect B-Way heavily if they introduced a radiation grenade. The void grenade works a little bit differently, and it makes a little void area. It could be something to bring into Planetside 2 itself. He also talks about the adjusted abilities like the healing or pain spire as a medic ability. He talks about the spectator camera. I mean, spectator camera is something that I've been asking for in Planetside 2 forever at this point, and more for casting ability more than anything else. But I wouldn't mind if they brought a spectator camera into the game and allowed you to view, a few seconds, even if it's just on your death screen. Even if it's in the background of your death screen, like, say when you die, you've got the big, overlay right in the middle that shows who killed you, what they killed you with, how much XP you got, everything like that. But behind that, it shows your gameplay. If you were to take the spectator camera and make that appear in the background, kind of grayed out, so you couldn't get a ton of big things from it, it might be something neat to add into the game itself, and then give them the ability to bring a full spectator camera to Planetside 2 for any sort of casting ability or things like that. I would love to see spectator camera come to Planetside 2. I've been asking for it forever, but obviously you've got to balance it with giving players too much information about a player, especially because you can respawn so easily in Planetside 2. He also talks about more diverse skyboxes. They look prettier in Planetside Arena and give more color based on than Planetside 2 does. I wouldn't mind that. He talks about colorful buildings. I mean, if you haven't played the beta, you should hop in and check it out. But a lot of the buildings are just differently colored, and you can easily make good call-outs within the game based on these colors. And that's something that would be a welcome addition to Planetside 2, especially for platoon and squad leaders. They could say, hey, everybody into the yellow building, rather than the banana building or the crescent building or vehicle bay, things like that. You can send them to various places with something like that. He also talks about the Bastion fleet carriers, how he wants to see these as mobile warp gates that are slowly moving around the map. That would not be a bad idea. Granted, that's not what they do in Planetside Arena, but I would love to see the Bastion fleet carriers actually brought to the game and used on all the continents rather than just Osher like they've hinted at. And then the final thing that he talks about is the Tempest, which is the NS Operatives Flash or the unarmed quick transport. It's kind of broken still on Planetside Arena. It doesn't work as well as it should, but the ability to call in this quick transport is something that he would like to see back in Planetside 2, and I'd like to see it in 2, because way back in the day, you used to be able to spawn a flash. It was on the PTS, and they had it as part of a tech plant bonus. It never came to live, but something like that would be pretty cool within the game, and clearly you're able to do it based on Planetside Arena. So again, these are just some of the things that Arai talked about in his post, which I thought was a good, well thought out post. Not everybody agrees with everything that he wrote into it, and I don't agree with everything that he wrote also. But some of these things, I hope the devs are looking at this and saying, hey, this wouldn't be a bad idea to bring to Planetside 2 as well, just to, enhance Planetside 2, and to also have people who play Planetside Arena be able to jump into Planetside 2 and say, oh yeah, this is very similar to Planetside Arena, and I can make the change or make the jump pretty easily. But with that, let's move on to our fourth and final topic this week. So like I hinted at the beginning of the show, the last topic this week is going to be about Apex Legends. Now, I don't usually devote a full topic to a competing game, but I thought that this was actually kind of important to talk about Apex Legends in the life of Planetside Arena specifically, because I wonder to myself, first of all, let's just talk what Apex Legends is. Apex Legends is the newest arena shooter that has been pushed out by EA. And the interesting part about this one is that it's a free-to-play game. You're able to play 8 different classes in it. But other than that, it's very similar to all the other arena games that are out there right now, or the Battle Royale games that are out there right now. Its big difference is that it's free to play, I think, more than anything else. So how does this actually relate to Planetside Arena? And when I first heard Apex Legends came out, and just to tell you the popularity of Apex Legends, it hit total users on the first day. It had 2.5 million players. And let's be honest, the reality is that in 8 hours, it had 1 million. In 24, it had 2.5 million. 72 hours after launch, it was at 10 million people playing the game. It peaked at over 495,000 viewers when it was launched. Surprise! It was basically a surprise launch because EA said, "Oh yeah, here's our new Battle Royale game. Here's its name. Oh yeah, it's ready today. Oh yeah, it's free to play." I mean, that's friggin' huge news in the game of arena titles or Battle Royale titles. And yeah, you can purchase in-game currency to unlock stuff, but it seems like you can unlock pretty much everything just by playing the game itself. So how does that really relate to Planetside Arena? Well, Planetside Arena was supposed to come out a couple weeks ago, and it didn't. And I think it was very important, and I almost wonder, did the devs know that EA was going to be releasing a Battle Royale game or an arena game? And if they did, is that why they were pushing hard to have Planetside Arena out and ready and playable on January, what day was it supposed to be out? It was supposed to be out on January 29th. It wasn't out on the 29th. So I wonder if they knew that EA about a week later was going to release this free-to-play Battle Royale game. And were they trying to get a jump on the market and get a lot of people into it? And if that's the case, they failed spectacularly. Now, yes, they sold a lot of pre-orders, but had they been able to get Planetside Arena onto the table and people playing it on January 29th, they would have beaten Apex Legends to the table, and they would have been able to sell a ton of titles. I think the fact that Apex Legends released as a free-to-play game means that they're stealing a lot of Planetside Arena's momentum and buzz about Planetside Arena. I would be curious to see what the numbers are of people canceling their Planetside Arena pre-orders because they'd much rather go and play this game, while not similar, while not a Planetside theme or really a sci-fi themed game. Maybe they want to go and play this instead rather than spend their money waiting another 2 months, or I guess at this point it's really only a month, a little more than a month for Planetside Arena to actually drop. Now, the good news is that the devs do have a chance to watch people play Apex Legends and actually learn a little bit from Apex Legends. And the fact that Planetside Arena has 3 classes, that's overshadowed by this one having 8, which means I think the devs are probably going to scramble to try and get a few more classes in the game to make this, a little more able to compete a little more. And I know that they're already looking at what Apex Legends is doing because I think they're already pulling stuff from Apex Legends. Because a big thing in Apex Legends is that there's no fall damage. So you can jump off the largest cliff and land and take absolutely no damage. And in one of the most recent patch notes for the beta of Planetside Arena, fall damage has been removed from the game. So I'm hoping that they can kind of piggyback on some of this stuff that EA is doing and bring it to Planetside Arena. A big thing in Apex Legends is that you can skin all your weapons in game, and I think it would be easy for Planetside Arena to take all the skins that are existing in Planetside 2 and transport those over into Planetside Arena. They could sell some of them. They could also offer them as some sort of rewards and things like that. Maybe they already have that set up in the season passes. But the fact that you get them in Apex Legends after winning matches, hitting XP goals in the game itself, I would hope that Planetside Arena is already figuring out all that stuff too. Again, Planetside Arena, Apex Legends is going to be the new hotness for a little while. Again, it's a free-to-play game. Anybody can jump in, do whatever you want. It doesn't look like you even have to spend any money at all if you don't want to. I've been playing it. I haven't spent a dime yet. I really don't plan on spending a dime at this point, even though I could fast-track and unlock some special characters that way. I don't think that I'm going to do it. I still don't like Apex Legends, much like I don't like Planetside Arena for the fact that it's a team mode game. Apex Legends is 3v3. Or I guess it's 3v3v3v3v3 repeating. And I mean, that's the same as the team mode in Planetside Arena. Planetside Arena will continue to suck me in as long as they perfect that 250v250 or 500v500 mode, because that's still something that none of these other arena games have. So I do hope that the devs are really working on that sooner rather than later. We still haven't been able to test that on the beta of Planetside Arena. And like I said, the founders thing is 10 days from now. So again, maybe I spent too much time talking about Apex Legends, but I mean, if you're looking to scratch that Battle Royale itch before Planetside Arena comes out, it's not worth diving in and playing around with it. I mean, it feels very reminiscent to the Black Ops version without having to buy Black Ops. And that gets 2 thumbs up from me. So I'm hoping a lot of my Black Ops boys are going to switch over to Apex Legends so I can play with them more than I did when they were off in Black Ops, because I didn't buy that shit. And with that, let's move on to housekeeping this week.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
So first up, I got an email from Louie this week, and Louie writes, "Hey Mark, been playing the Planetside Arena beta, and I just thought I'd email in my quick 2 cents. First up, Louie, hit me up. We'll play beta together." Back to his email. Planetside Arena seems to me like it's just your everyday battle royal game with a Planetside skin on it. They haven't, at least so far, taken advantage of the combined arms massive battle aspect of Planetside. There are more and more games coming out trying to get a piece of the battle royale pie, and I feel DBG is missing out on an opportunity to set this game apart from the rest. What is a Planetside massive clash without tanks, ESFs, and max suits? I do think the game has a lot of potential, and I hope the Battle Royale hype sticks around long enough for them to get this game to be truly Planetside. It definitely won't replace Planetside 2 for me, but I can see myself playing a couple matches a week. Take care, Louie. Louie, I agree with you completely, and I covered a bunch of this in my last topic that I just finished regarding Apex Legends. But yeah, hit me up, Louie. We'll play some arena together next time they're doing a big playtest. Especially talk to me when the 250v250 comes out, and we'll get together. Second, I did get a second email, and this was from James, and he writes, "Hi from New Zealand. I'm not sure if you have spent the ASP point you are holding onto yet, but if you haven't, I have a suggestion for you. You have said you like playing Stalker Infiltrator on occasion, so how about sticky grenades for your Infiltrator? It is a huge amount of fun as a stalker with a grenade bandolier to sneak up on groups of heavies, throw the grenade, recloak, run away, and watch the chaos. Cheesy but fun. My second query is about what constitutes being a lag wizard. I usually play on Briggs where I have a 35 to 50 millisecond ping, 60 to 70 millisecond latency, and good connection quality. Unfortunately, the population is so low that it is often only worth playing for a few hours during Australia's prime time. So I have a character on Connery, where I get 150 to 170 millisecond ping and 180 to 200 millisecond latency and a poor to bad connection quality. Would I be considered a lag wizard? I did try Soltech, but the numbers were all worst. Interested in your thoughts." So James, first up, regarding the ASP point, I did not spend it. And while I do like where you're going with the Stalker Infiltrator sticky grenade, I've already Araxiumed the sticky grenades on my engineer. So that means I don't use them anywhere near as much as I did in the past. and therefore it might be a waste of an ASP point for me. So I think I'm going to sit on it a little bit longer, but I do like where your head's at. I'm not going to lie. As for being a lag wizard, I know what I think a lag wizard is, and I think that 150 to 170 ping and 180 to 200 latency and poor to bad connection quality is lag wizardy. That's at least my opinion on that. And looking around on different forums and Reddit and stuff like that, it seems that the consensus is that yes, at those types of pings and things like that, and your latency, yeah, you're definitely a lag wizard. So you can break out your hat and wear it with pride. But again, thank you for that email. And if you have any other ASP suggestions, send them my way. But that is going to be it for this week's show. As always, how can you get in touch with me or the show? Well, first off, visit my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. At that website, don't forget to hit up that support the show tab and help me out by using my Amazon link primarily. Next, you can email me like Louie and James did at instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can also call me and leave me a voicemail at 347-4VM-4PS2. Those digits are 347-486-4772. You can also follow the show on Twitter at InstActPodcast. But in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, specifically iTunes or Stitcher. Definitely, like I said, my New Year's resolution this year is to get more reviews on iTunes. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. But finally, thanks for listening and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.
Get your arms combined.